Good morning. Welcome to Let's Get Growing Facebook Live. It's a beautiful morning after a long day of rain yesterday. Certainly makes the garden come alive for sure. Just going to take a little walk through today and look at a few of our perennials and things that are doing their thing. Renovating the wall garden. We did a new planting last year. We looked at some of these. This guy in particular. This is one of the fashionably series of phlox. Boy, with phlox blooming in June, it's great. Now, the nice thing about these early phloxes is that they're using earlier blooming species, crossing them with basically mildew-free. I'll zoom in close. The foliage is fantastic on these, so watch for these guys. This is a fashionably early princess, and a really nice addition to the garden at this time of the year. We don't normally see phlox paniculatas for another month or so, so it's kind of a nice look. Going to sneak through the wall garden here and come out into the newer garden, which is really coming in and really filling in well. I'm really thrilled with how it's come along the last year. There's some really neat stuff in here. And we're in late June, latter part of June. So we've got thalictrums doing their thing. There's so many nice thalictrums out there, and you don't often see them in the garden centers. That you have to grow them from seed, but they're not difficult from seed. They can be a bit difficult if you get to try to collect your own seed from thalictrums because you have male and female plants. So you don't always know if you've got a seed-bearing plant or not. You might just have a male and just have bloom and never any flowers. One plant here that I just love, that I've been having fun with the last couple of years, is this guy here. This is a Pusidanum, which really won't mean much of anything. But it's one of the umbellifers. So an umbel flower, like the carrots, the carrot family, Queen Anne's lace and things like that. But this guy, Pusidanum verticillare, is not a biennial, it's monocarpic. So the plants that are blooming here, I think, are probably in their third year. Some could be in their second. They kind of bloom when they feel like it. But we don't use these big, giant umbellifers in the garden very much here. In the UK and in Europe, they use them a lot more. But I think they're really just amazing architectural plants. This guy here, well, I don't know, maybe I can hand Laura the phone here. Like this guy here is easily 6 feet tall, and as the flowers are just stretching out, he's going to get another foot or so taller than that. The heads, very carrot-like, Queen Anne's lace-like. They'll be yellow, and they'll be on a big branch spike. And then after the flowers are done, you get this amazing structure, stays here for the better part of the summer. So you get this fantastic structure afterwards of these big umbellifers. I think they're just amazing plants. And like I say, we just don't see them used here anywhere nearly enough. I think they're just a lot of fun. Hard to find, but not hard to grow from seeds. So another plant that we should be using a lot of, especially here in southern Ontario, is the Penstemon digitalis. I don't know if you can sweep around, Lauren. You get at the sun behind you, maybe. Just see it, I'm not sure. But Penstemon digitalis, or the foxglove penstemon, is a wonderful native perennial here in southern Ontario. Now, what we see it represented in cultivation are mostly the red leaf forms. This is Pocahontas. There's Blackbeard. There's a host of other ones, but super reliable, super easygoing. Pollinators like the penstemons. The dark foliage ones start out really, really burgundy in the spring. They get a little bit greener now, but after the flowers are done, you get burgundy seed heads that persist for a very long time. So look for those selections. A lot of them are available. They're great perennials for sun, moist to somewhat dry, not exceptionally dry, but somewhat dry. And they're native. Great plants. Penstemon digitalis. Watch for those. I'm going to come all the way around here, Laura, and look over here. Another group of plants that are a must-have for pollinators are the salvias. Now, the salvias, okay, they're not native, I'll give you that much, but these are just teeming with bees and other pollinators right now. I scared them away a little bit, but you can see the bees down here doing their work. Right in here. I don't know if you can see them, Laura, getting right in there. But all the salvia family, really all the mint family, are huge pollinators. So much nectar. The pollinators love them. They're great at this time of the year. So these have been blooming for about a month already. So they've been giving pollinators that great whole late spring, pushing into early summer. Most salvias, if you cut them back once they've finished, you'll get a whole new flush of bloom. You can see this guy's certainly getting to that point. The flower stalks are pretty much done. So what we'll do with that is we'll just go cut it back heavy to the rosette, and it'll send up another flush of bloom later. We have to be careful because this one in our soil likes to reseed. So I don't like to leave the seedlings, the seeds on there to let it reseed. Another thing coming along in this bed, there's a lot of layering in this bed. So we've got our alliums are just finishing up. Our salvias are just finishing up. But then coming along right behind it is this nice frothy green of the Coreopsis gilded lace. As well, we've got some Monardas in here that are going to come along a bit later. And this spring, we just planted a bunch of trumpet lilies that are going to come up and tower over the foliage with their trumpets. So they're not going to put a big show on this year, but they're going to be great in the future. Now, a couple of more plants over here to look at. Which way is the best way to go? Have a look. Okay. So one of my favorite plants in the garden has got to be our Persicaria polymorpha. Persicaria polymorpha is one of our giants in the garden here. This is our oldest plant. It's been in the ground for 24 years now. Easily gets up to 8 feet tall and is now probably a good 12 feet across. Persicaria polymorpha is a wonderful plant in a family that has some pretty bad members of it, so they do kind of get a bad rap sometimes. Persicaria polymorpha does not spread. It's a hybrid plant, so it doesn't even produce viable seed, which is great. It just does this, and think about this is a perennial. It's herbaceous. It shoots up to this from the ground every year. It's just coming into full bloom, and is now going to look this good well into late August. Quite an amazing plant. I'll move over to it. You can get a bit more scale. Like, look at the size of this thing. Just amazing. I love these giant frothy white flowers, very Astilbe-like, but the plant is a very drought tolerant, easygoing, gotta have it if you've got the room. I just love it. We have more plants along the fence row here. I wish I had planted more. I think I will. But it's a great plant if you've got the space. Persicaria polymorpha. Full sun, but it will also grow in half-day sun and even less, and still give you 6 to 8 foot stems with the fluffy white flowers. A little more open habit, but still a great plant as a background focal point kind of plant. The other one I'm walking through right now, we'll talk about those a little bit later in the year, but I'll mention it today because they're a fun plant. This is Silphium perfoliatum, commonly known as the cup plant. And why is it called the cup plant? Because of this. The leaves clasp the stem, and they hold water. So it's a native perennial. They're going to get at least 2 feet taller than they are right now before they come into bloom. 3-inch yellow daisies that the pollinators love. And once they go to seed, we cannot keep the goldfinches off them. A great bird plant for later in the season. But because of this little water, and it happens all the way down the stem, these are a great water source for bees and birds and other pollinators and things like that. So water is something that's very important you got to have in your garden, whether it's a little pond or a water garden planter or something. You got to have some water. You know, bees and butterflies and whatnot need water, so keep that in mind. The cup plant after a rainy day is a perfect example of how to get water in your garden. So keep an eye on those. What else have we got that looks pretty nice right now? Oh, we got some water lilies blooming. Let's go have a look at those. The water lilies are all coming into bloom now. I just love water plants. I can never get enough of them. These are all hardy lilies. They live in this pond year-round. But you can see just magnificent flowers on them. I don't know if this one's fragrant or not. It is. Wonderful fragrance, although you'd have to be swimming in the pond to get them. But interesting thing, you know, it's always recommended to have like 3 feet depth to keep your lilies over the winter. But this pond is 12, maybe 14 inches deep. And our hardy lilies live out here year-round. They do amazingly well. These were all sitting in the pond all winter. So you don't necessarily need 3 feet depth to keep your hardy lilies going year-round. They're all growing in about 8-inch pots, maybe 10-inch pots. Some of them are in need of a divide, but they're very, very happy. Lots more coming into bloom, and these will bloom all summer long for us. So kind of a nice little touch. We'll move them into the containers if we want to. What else can we get? Let's go down up into the wall garden again. We're going to look at one more perennial today. No, 2 more perennials. 2 more. One of them, Geranium pratense, or the meadow cranesbill. We've always loved geraniums in the garden. They're a great group of perennials. They're a great mingler type perennial. You know, if you've got big, bold plants, like the cup plant, like Persicaria, things like that, and then you need to tie the bulbs do. And Geranium pratense does that by seeding itself around fairly well in our conditions. Depending on where they are and what you get, you'll get sort of 3 to 4 feet tall. Blue flowers, you'll get white ones as well. There's lots of different shades of blue in there, from really intense blue all the way down to pale blue and then into white. Great plants for the June-July garden. Geraniums are really one of the stars of that time of the year. You take these long stalks here. So you see these long stalks that the flowers are on. After bloom, cut those right to the ground. The plants will flush out a new crop of foliage and then usually a second crop of flowers for later in the summer. So really terrific, good long blooming plants for the perennial garden. This is Geranium pratense. There's lots of other ones out there, so definitely look for those. Allium Christophii still doing its thing. They're alliums. One of my basically gone, so you get these big starry heads that just look great mingled through your perennial border. Allium Christophii. And one more. And traditionally see available in the garden centers that tend to be short and low clumpy. Tradescantia ohioensis will grow anywhere from 2 to 4 feet tall. Wonderful blue flowers, extremely drought tolerant, really tough plant. Native, I don't know if it's native into Ontario, but certainly close to it if it's not. One thing about Tradescantias, it's the morning, they're in full bloom. Late afternoon, they close up. So if you want to have your Tradescantias blooming all day, plant them in some afternoon shade, and that will keep them blooming, keep the flowers open all through the day. What else? Well, we can look at this guy, I guess, for favorite plant for many reasons, but when they bloom, you cannot resist the fragrance of the mock oranges. They are beautiful flowering shrubs. If you've got room, add them into your garden. If you're really limited on space, mock oranges have very little going for them after they bloom. Not great habit in general. No fall color, anything like that. But wonderful fragrance if you can fit them in for this time of the year, because they're great at this time of the year. I'm just going to swing back, Laura, for one more. Do you have any questions popping up today?
Nope.
No questions today. I mentioned Thalictrum aquilegifolium just coming into bloom. And this guy's one of them here. This big gargantuan. This is Thalictrum Ellen. You can see Ellen will easily get 8 feet tall with a wonderful cloud of lavender flowers on very strong, structural, purple tinted stems. Really great structure plants, the Thalictrums, where you want that height and something that looks a little bit different. Really a great, great, great plant. Our hedges and our trees have recovered. If you remember, we had some frost in May that really damaged all of our flowers and foliage from our yellowbird magnolia. But if you look, you can see that it is completely recovered and looking as good as it would had it not frozen. We did miss the blooms this year, but the plant has recovered. So that's great to see. It's amazing how resilient plants can be. Also, the beech hedge has recovered very well. It's pushing out some new growth again. You can see here where we've got some of that new growth that died. Right behind it, new growth has come. And look at, we've got 3 to 4 inches of new growth already. So that's just in, what, 4 weeks from damaging frost, maybe 5 weeks damaging frost that killed all the foliage on them. So it's great to see how resilient the trees and shrubs can be. Makes you feel better when they get damaged from those late frosts, I'll tell you.
One question.
Yes.
What was the name of the digitalis?
Okay, so the plant we looked at that's digitalis is actually Penstemon digitalis. So it's the penstemon that kind of resembles a foxglove. That's what the name means. So penstemons are beard tongues. We can go back and look at it because we're right around the corner from it here. And if we pick a little spike of flowers off, you can sort of see there's a bit of a resemblance of the flower to a foxglove flower. So that's where it gets that name. So Penstemon digitalis, or beard tongue, or foxglove beard tongue. That's the common name. It's a wonderful native perennial. Look for it. There's lots of different selections out there, especially the red leaf ones. And they're a wonderful addition to the perennial garden. You really can't beat them. Super tough, super easy to grow. Any other questions, Laura?
Nope.
All right. Well, it's a little look around what's blooming today. Thanks for joining us. If you're a regular viewer, you will know tomorrow we are on our way to England. So what we're going to be doing over the next 2 weeks, we're going to be shooting video. We're going to try and shoot video in every garden we go in. And we're going to have a breakdown of the day every day. So follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and you can follow along our trip. We're going to a lot of the greatest gardens in England, most famous gardens in England, and a few treats that we haven't been to yet. So stay tuned for that for the next couple of weeks. And that will be our Let's Get Growing Facebook Live. It'll kind of be every day. So watch for that and enjoy our trip right along with us. And we'll see you next time on Get Growing Facebook Live.